The number one priority in building a successful classroom resource is high-quality, unique content. Once you have an idea that helps students learn in a unique, research-grounded, and engaging way, you'll want to share it with a wide audience. The best way to get the attention of that audience is presentation. Think of your classroom resource as a delicious dessert made from your secret family recipe. If you made 2 servings of your dessert, displayed one on a cake stand with appealing garnishes, then covered the other in saran wrap and placed them both on a table at a potluck, more people would be gushing over the contents of your cake stand dessert, and maybe a few brave souls would come to realize that the saran wrap dessert is also quite delicious. My 5 design tools will help you transform your high-quality idea into a professional, visually appealing classroom resource that teachers will be gushing over. The first of these design tools will help you with font selection. When it comes to selecting fonts for your resources, you should pair fonts that complement one another and don't fight for attention on the page. If your page is filled with too many typefaces, conflicting typefaces, or fonts that are too decorative and difficult to read, students who use the resource will struggle to concentrate on the content. The layout of your resource pages should be like the walls of a classroom, decorative but not so decorative that they become a distraction. The rule of thumb I use when designing a resource is to select the body font first, because it's what the students will spend the most time reading. By selecting a crisp, readable font that has a hint of fun, I can ensure that the content of the resource is visually accessible to young eyes, but also visually engaging. Students will have a lot more fun working with a resource that has readable fonts with a hint of personality than they will with a resource that incorporates the boring old Times New Roman or Arial. As a teacher creator, you must play by the rules of a graphic designer when it comes to fonts. That rule is concord or contrast, but don't conflict. First, let's discuss concord. This is the pairing of fonts that have the same trait. They could share proportions, such as cap height, the height from the baseline to the top of the uppercase letters, or X height, the height from the baseline to the top of the lowercase letters. Fonts with concord can also have the same kerning, or spacing between each letter or symbol. Oftentimes, fonts in the same family or made by the same designer have concord. But if you really spend time analyzing fonts, you can successfully pair different designers. Contrast is about finding totally different but still complementary typefaces. These are 5 factors to help create contrast. The most common way to contrast is to pair serif with sans serif. A serif is a small line attached to the end of a stroke in a letter or symbol. These small lines help the eye move across the page when reading large groups of text. Sans is French for without, and sans serif means without serif, which is why sans serif fonts do not have these small lines at the end of each stroke. The second factor is style. Heavy fonts with a strong personality can be paired with more subtle fonts that bring a calm balance to the page. Of course, reserving bold styles for headings or cover pages is always recommended, as they're easy to read in small doses, but make the eyes tired when used as body text. Third is size. This, of course, is very straightforward, pairing big with small. Weight can also be a contrasting factor. Bold, heavy fonts can be paired successfully with fonts that have light, thin strokes. Last is color. This is important to consider when designing cover pages, but not as important when creating actual content pages, as many teachers print in black and white. Now, back to the graphic design rule. Concord, and contrast, but don't conflict. For recommendations on avoiding conflict in font pairing, I recommend visiting the resource A Beginner's Guide to Pairing Fonts below for detailed visual examples of factors that create conflict. Keep in mind, pairing fonts becomes easier with time as you begin to get a feel for the fonts that fit your brand, and you develop a keen eye for pairing. Now that you have a bit of background about font pairings, you may be wondering how to find those beautiful fonts that aren't in your Microsoft font list. In the interest of helping you create resources that have a higher return on investment, I'll share a few sites that have free commercial use fonts. These sites are Free Scrapbook Fonts. This is a great place to start your font collection and develop your keen eye for unique font pairings on a budget. Font Squirrel has a wide variety. Some are appropriate for the classroom, but you'll have to do a little more sifting. Really Quite Lucky has a small collection that is perfect for classroom resources. You can also download free fonts from TPT by searching for fonts, then clicking By TPT Sellers for TPT Sellers, and then sorting by price. Another cost-saving option is to create your own fonts. I've never ventured into this realm of creating, but the most highly recommended app used by other teacher creators who design and even sell their own fonts is called iFontMaker. If this is something you're interested in, I've linked to their site below. If you're ready to start spending money on fonts, you can find commercial use fonts at Teachers Pay Teachers in the By TPT Sellers for TPT Sellers category. Urban Fonts and DaFont are two other sites that graphic artists and web designers use. I'm going to show you how to download and install a font from TPT. Keep in mind, I'm using a Mac with OS X operating system, so your process may be slightly different. I've written these steps in the font download process PDF below, along with the steps for how to download fonts using a PC. First, I found the font that I wanted. Then I'll click Download Now. This will send the file to my Downloads folder in the upper right-hand corner of my Safari browser. I'll double-click to open the Fonts folder, and then double-click again to open the font. This window will appear, and then I'll click Install Font. In order for this font to be available in PowerPoint or any other program, I must first close the program and reopen it so the font can be added to that program's font collection. You can then incorporate the font into your resources by selecting it from the Font drop-down menu. That wraps it up for getting started with font design. This is a lot to take in at first, so keep in mind it's okay to tackle things in small chunks. Start by downloading a few free fonts and tinkering around with pairing. Over time, your eyes and mind will master the pairing process, and it will become a natural part of your resource design. In the beginning, be sure to focus on using fonts that are readable but have a unique flair that shows they're not your typical Microsoft fonts. If you have a favorite font pairing or a font designer you would like to recommend, please share your knowledge in the comments section below. Up next in Design Tool 9, I will show you how to polish your resources with backgrounds.